Hello there. Welcome back to MargaretsPearlsTV channel. If you're new here, here is a warm welcome from me to you. This is a channel that prides itself on faith, lifestyles, and social issues. A few months ago, I covered the abuse series on my channel. We looked at domestic violence as experienced by men, women, and children. Please go back and listen to that series. I acknowledge that this is a highly sensitive topic, and most especially, it could be the elephant in the room, particularly for our male folks who are not expected to be beaten in their relationships. I want to start by defining what domestic violence and abuse are. Domestic abuse is an incident or pattern of incidents of controlling, coercion, threatening, degrading psychological and or emotional abuse, financial or economic abuse, harassment and stalking, online or digital abuse, and violent behavior, including sexual violence, in the majority of cases by a partner or ex-partner, but also by a family member or carer. It includes different forms of family violence such as forced marriage, female genital mutilation, and so-called honor crimes that are perpetrated primarily by family members, often with multitude perpetrators. It is very common. In the vast majority of cases, it is experienced by women and is perpetrated by men. To be honest, abuse is more prevalent than it seems, and I will encourage us to be on the lookout for the signs. The catalyst to this content today is a story, a very sad story I read on Facebook by a proprietor of an organization in Nigeria that rescue women and children from domestic abuse household. To lose one life is sad, but to lose a life of a pregnant woman and the life of an unborn child is even more sad. We can't deny this is happening in various communities. Some go through it and survived it, but this lady and her unborn child did not survive. I am not saying this is only applicable to women, but I am looking at this story and it has triggered this content. Men also go through domestic violence, like I said earlier on. Whatever the gender is, it should not be tolerated. It is not acceptable to abuse anyone. It is reported that earlier this month, a young male person allegedly beat his pregnant wife to death in a country. It was gathered that the sad development, which left everyone in shock, happened in their home environment. This couple were reported to have gotten married about 4 years ago. The source of the story added, the male person in question started abusing his wife after they had their first child. She suddenly became disgusting to him and he always looked for every reason to be violent. The source further narrated that the male person started cheating on his wife to an extent that he started threatening her to leave the marriage. He was reported to abuse his wife physically. He will beat her severely if she dares ask for the money she's loaned him. The lady then got pregnant with their second child. He abused her until the baby died inside her. She was then rushed to the hospital and she had to deliver the unborn child. But unfortunately, both the lady and the baby died on Thursday, the 10th of March this year. The male person is said to have taken to his heels when she was hospitalized, but he returned when he was informed that his wife had died. Apparently, he started crying, stating he was not at home when the incident occurred. I will be leaving the source of the story in the description section of this content. Perhaps as you're listening, you're wondering, Why do women and men stay in domestic abuse relationships? For most, it's because of danger and fear of the unknown. It is also reported that domestic violence increases after separation. It could also be fear of isolation. This also increases as the person becomes dependent on the abuser. It could be shame, embarrassment by the women while the abuser denies the allegations or blames them for the cause of the domestic violence and tendencies. Another reason is trauma and low self-confidence. Then there are practical reasons such as financial dependency of the female person on the male. The fear that perhaps his children will be taken away and he or she may never see their children again. It could be immigration status, lack of support when needed. Obviously, these reasons are not reasons to stay in a volatile relationship that could lead to loss of life. And these are not exhaustive reasons. There are different reasons why people decide to stay in such relationships and risk their lives. But it is not worth risking your life for. Let us look at the effects of domestic violence on some women. Abused women often experience conflicting emotions such as fear. Maybe that was what that lady was experiencing that made her stay in that relationship. It could also be, what would family think if she leaves her marriage? There could be emotions relating to anger, shame, resentment, sadness, and powerlessness. They are not weak, but submissive victims. Quite the opposite. They are courageous and resourceful. It takes each strength to live with an abusive partner. Women have to adopt all kinds of coping strategies to survive each day in such relationships. The rates of depression, anxiety disorders, unplanned pregnancy, sexually transmitted infections, and HIV are higher in women who have experienced violence compared to women who haven't, as well as many other health problems that can last even after the violence has ended. What then should we be looking out for as we embark on relationships, or perhaps in relationships, in order to avoid ending up in abusive and volatile relationships? I would say before you get involved with anyone, please check their history, including family history of domestic violence. There are some patterns that are prevalent in certain families and is not worth going into. Secondly, be mindful of language the person is using when you are with them. They could be derogatory words. They could be words that put you down. They could be name calling. Be mindful of such behaviors or presentations. It's an indication that that person could be violent towards you whilst you're dating or courting before you even get into the marital environment. Also, what were their past relationships like? Try to find out, why did they break up? Or why are there many breakups? What are the reasons for those many breakups? Number 4, some of these signs are there, but we fail to see them. Hence, we say love is blind. And sometimes we think we can change that individual. That is a fallacy. You cannot change anyone. And that is not always the case. It is not worth you risking your life by saying that person will change, because they will not change for you. Next, if a spouse treats animals violently or damages property when angry, please leave such relationships. Don't go further into them. In addition, be mindful of relationships pre-marriage and during marriage where one partner is trying to remove you from your network and isolate you far away from familiar environment and people. Is often a sign that eventually you might be abused in future. Next, if a spouse expresses unforgiveness, bitterness, hatred for others, and they are not shifting in these views or these expressions, this could be signs that they may be violent in future. If someone is also drinking heavily or smoking or taking other drugs or dependent on substances, this also increases aggressive behavior. What about people with multiple dating partners? This can also result in anger-invoked behavior, just like that gentleman who killed his wife and the unborn child. I would also advise parents not to display domestic violence when children are around. As parents, we are the first role models for our children, and also do not call each other derogatory words or names. I would also recommend that parents should not tolerate violence or violent play amongst their children. Next, if you have parental responsibility for a child, please monitor and control the games they play online and the films they watch, and ensure it does not contain violence. Better still, use parental control. Finally, if you are considering returning to a violent relationship or previously violent relationship, please ensure both of you have sought help through counseling, mediation, or there is a legal framework in place to protect you from future violence behavior. Like I said earlier, this is a highly sensitive topic. If this has affected you in any way, please seek help and support, either from your network, faith leaders, and organizations, including the police. Please do not stay to be killed. It may be till death do us part, but it does not mean premature death. We will not labor in vain. In Jesus' name. Please look after yourself. It is better to be alive than to be dead, and someone else look after your children. Thank you for listening and watching. Please press the like button, comment, share, subscribe, and press that notification button. If you see any adverts, please help watch them, and I will appreciate you if you also tell others about this channel. Thank you so much for spending your time with me, for watching and listening as always. Thank you. Please do take care of yourself and look after yourself and each other. Bye for now. God bless.